human art versus AI. This seems to be an ongoing battle out here in the music game, and things are always changing rapidly. Today I'm going to be reacting to this video by a top music attorney, giving us a rundown on what's happening with streaming platforms like Tidal, Google's stance on AI generated content, and the need for transparency from some of these platforms. Make sure you stay tuned to the very end of this video because this information is very important for all my producers, songwriters, and recording artists out there. So without further ado, let's get into it.
It just kind of feels to me like the music industry is finally breaking. There was this hesitation for like the last year with what side are you going to come out on with the AI issue, the unauthorized training. And it's so interesting because the issue has now dramatically been evolving into a much worse kind of issue, which we're going to talk about. But I kind of was just trying to figure out what to even start with on all the updates that have happened this week on these companies and what positions are they taking, which ones are the most horrifying, and which ones maybe could actually help artists and most importantly, independent artists. So let's start with Tidal. So of course, the streaming platform Tidal has introduced the music industry's toughest AI policies without actually banning AI music outright. So effective immediately, the songs that are identified as 100% AI generated are no longer eligible for royalties.
Okay, so that's gonna hurt some of those AI recording artists or AI recording artists who are out there who are putting out music strictly for monetary purposes. If you're gonna put your music on Tidal, I know some people are using AI to just be creative. Maybe they didn't go through the process of learning an instrument or learning how to write songs and things like that. They're kind of messing around and they just want to put music out there and see if people will actually like it. And then we also have another group of people who are just generating a whole bunch of music, putting it out there and just using it as a way to just quickly get money. It's a quick hustle. They don't care about music at all. This is just something that they're doing to get a quick dollar. So, you know, if you're in that other camp, you know, shame on you. This is a craft that many of us take seriously, but it looks like Tidal is putting down the hammer. So we'll see what happens with other streaming platforms. Will they follow suit or will they just kind of let things ride? We don't know. Let's see how things pan out, but let's get back into the video.
So Tidal is coming in, putting down the hard line and saying we will not pay out royalties for AI songs. And of the DSPs, of the streaming platforms, right, we've been watching because right out the gate, to their credit, the streaming platform Deezer said, well, we're going to mark what songs are AI generated. They are in fact paying out for the AI songs, but at least, you know, taking some kind of step on, we want to not push AI music. We want to, you know, respect the human-made music. And then a year later, Spotify came out with its big move. And instead of identifying the AI-generated music, it's now like you can apply for a human badge, but not everybody gets it. So you have to have the minimum 10,000 streams every month for a consistent 3-month minimum. So we just speculated about, well, how many artists does that actually apply to?
Now, with the whole Spotify thing, I think that's really unfair. I think it should have been the other way around. People need to identify the AI creators as opposed to the human-made creators. That's a little backwards. You know, I have some speculation on some things that could be happening with Spotify. I'll keep that to myself for now, but I'm gonna put my tinfoil hat on because I think they allow certain things for a reason, for a purpose that it's not quite seen to the naked eye. But let's go ahead and get back into the video.
Beginning July 15th, the tracks identified as AI will in fact be labeled AI. Now, Tidal is talking about, well, this is because there's all of this fraud. There's AI impersonators who are taking over deceptive uploads. So they're saying that they're doing this for a number of reasons. But of course, the top reason allegedly being that we want to protect human creators. Now, as much as I love this, I do have to just ask, why now? The timing does matter. Glad to have this happening, but again, back to I think the music industry is finally breaking, and that companies that maybe were on the line, either way or otherwise not wanting to get involved because, you know what, it's a little bit messy. There's some of us who are filing class action lawsuits against these AI companies because they did take millions of songs, as alleged in our complaints, without authorization. That's a problem. And then here we are with at least major record labels settling, doing deals, letting go of, the unauthorized issues. Let's just get a check. But now the new issue that I've been calling out is What about the consent for the artists and their voices and the stuff that the record labels don't own that I worry our rights that the labels are feeding into these licensing deals or letting AI companies train on without actually having the permissions? But Tidal here declaring human made is something that is a premium product. Let's go. But then let's keep going. So Google appears to be pushing for changes that would make it easier to train AI on copyrighted songs without obtaining permission. So Google argues copyright enforcement should focus on AI outputs, not the training data. Let's not worry about that little training data and where it came from and whether it was scraped off the internet without authorization. No, we're not going to think about that. But really, Google says that legality depends on whether the final songs actually copy from the original.
Wow. Okay. So it sounds like Google wants to play, gingerbread man, catch me if you can. If you can prove it, then hey, you have a claim. But if you can't prove it, you're just kind of speculating, you don't know where it really came from, then hey, all's fair. We can kind of strong arm you out of your intellectual property. I can't say that I didn't see something like that coming. That makes sense from their interest, from a big business interest. It's like, do as I say, not as I do. When you think about hip hop and how, we started with all the sampling and how all the pioneers got all those lawsuits and had all those issues, they didn't say, hey, if you can splice it up and cut things up, then, you're good to go. But, that's, a lot of producers got in trouble because of that. But now on the other hand, they're saying, hey, we can do it. If you can't catch us, then we can go ahead and get away with it. But, it's something that doesn't surprise me too much. It probably shouldn't surprise any of you guys. It's not fair, but it's to be expected. But let's go ahead and get back into the video.
Says that legality depends on whether the final songs actually copy from the original, right? So it's like this traditional idea of copyright infringement. Well, copyright infringement is based on copying. And the reason I don't agree with that is because it's not a one-for-one with AI outputs. What I mean is that an AI output is understood to have trained on a bunch of songs. And then the resulting output will have, potentially, all of the memorized information, all of the mimicking from a bunch of songs. And so as nice as Google is to make this recommendation and to be fighting for it, and as a, what is it again? A $4.3 trillion company that has a little weight to throw around, we feel really great for artists in general to have Google itself fighting to reshape copyright law. So we speculate, dear Google, we want to change the law. What's the benefit here? Is it just too expensive, right? To license music, to have someone do the right thing right out the gate? I guess it probably makes more sense to try to change the law, try to make it just, open the floodgate for AI training without authorization, because you know what? Ultimately, that's going to be cheaper. Right now, including with our class action lawsuits, it's big tech and the billions of dollars, as it relates to at least one of the companies, against creators.
That's a good point that top music attorney just made there. There's something that I've noticed among people who are just super AI and they're in our creative space as well. It's that if I can use this platform to make something that sounds cool, then I'm just going to go ahead and go with it and do it for convenience and do it for speed's sake. Hey, it sounds good. I'm gonna rock out with it. Let's go ahead and just, let's do it. This is the wave of the future. Let's just go ahead and do it. You have to think about the other side of things. Think about the human element, the creatives, the people who are actually out there learning their instruments, going to studio sessions, recording songs, mixing songs, mastering songs. These are all human endeavors. And then to have these platforms just strong arm the creatives and then just not even compensate them. Like she mentioned, Google is like what'd she say? Something like a $4 trillion company, something to that effect. And I'm like, that's a lot of hoarding of money. And, creatives, a lot of times don't really have too much money. They just a whole lot of grinding until they can hit a certain level. And then, things get better and better. But it's like think about things from a bigger perspective. Don't just think about the tool itself. Think about how these different tools impacts the publics and impacts the real people who are making the songs that we all know and love. So let's go ahead and get back into the video.
Now, you might be asking, and well, what's the government doing? Gosh, all these things happening. If you happen to fall a whole lot, or at least a little bit, on the side of creators, what's the government doing to help with these issues? Well, one of the things is this proposed AI Labeling Act of 2026, which would require AI generated audio, video, images to carry standardized disclosure tags at creation, right? So the Deezer model essentially on making sure everything is tagged. What the proposal is that there would be fingerprinting that happened in the actual AI output the moment that it was created. And then that would just carry through, kind of like, for music creators, there's this thing called an ISRC number. There's a little barcode that gets attached to your song when you distribute it onto streaming platforms. And so this little fingerprint that would be put onto the AI output is for transparency, right? So, the question is, well, why still? It's great that there's a proposal that will be crushed and never seen, and won't see the light of day. We'll see. Great that there's a proposal. Why is there still no universal label like this? The general consumer experience is that people really want to not be lied to.
I definitely co-sign that AI generated label. I want, back in the day when the parental advisory stickers came out, we knew when things were explicit and not explicit. I co-sign that for music. Let us know when this is AI music, when it's not AI music. Practically everyone I know personally has now hit the point that they've been fooled into consuming and listening to AI music, which I really don't think it's fair. It's not ethical in a lot of ways. One, for the fact that a lot of times it's taking the likeness of a real person, then emulating them, whether it's their vocals, and sometimes they're even making social media platforms and taking the real cultural aesthetic of real people, and then real people aren't even being compensated for that. I don't like that for a number of reasons. And I think just having that AI generated label will help people who care. Do I care if I'm listening to AI music? If I don't care at all, go ahead and rock out with it. If you do care, you want to listen to human made music, let's go ahead and do that. I did a reaction to a short documentary not too long ago where some of the people who are listening to a specific AI rock band, they didn't care at all. So, hey, let's see if that AI generated label will come out, in the near future. But let's get back into the video.
People really want to not be deceived. And, we also covered recently, for example, there was an independent artist who was suing Spotify. Everyone reported independent artist. I go, oh gosh, I'm gonna cover it. Great. And it turns out it wasn't an independent artist. It was an AI creator. That is an important distinction on identifying what it is that we are talking about. It was someone who uses Suno. And, I was reading an update today even about that, because this happens to also be a lawyer. And the lawyer who is bringing this lawsuit has expanded and is adding claims and this and that, going after Spotify for underpayment. And then we also this week heard from Madonna. Okay, so recently, she's throwing in, talking about the AI conversation in general. So I guess what we could say is that as we see more mainstream, big names talking about AI, their perspective, they don't think that it's art, and whatever their views are, what we can at least say is that this demonstrates that AI is no longer like this niche issue that we talk about here on Top Music Attorney, but this is actually like a cultural phenomenon that people are really concerned about, and they want to know what's going on. They don't want to be lied to. But as always, I'm curious what you guys think, because I think the industry is actually breaking and people and companies are being forced to take a position.
I want you guys who are using these platforms, I'm noticing that some people just want to use AI to have fun and create something cool. They're prompting stuff, they're making songs, maybe they're making songs for people that they love, and they're using it kind of like a toy, and then they want to allow that toy to, be spread across the world. Maybe somebody made a song for their wife or their husband, and then now they want to put it out there and, see what will happen with this. So I'm not quite as harsh on people who do that. I understand that it is trained on real copyrighted materials and the real artists should be compensated for the work. So I'm definitely standing firm on that. However, for you guys who like to play with AI music and prompt it, you know, have fun. Just know that that's kind of a separate world from people who lean more towards the purist side, like Top Music Attorney just mentioned. Recently, Madonna has made some statements about AI. So, you know, definitely some interesting stuff going on, guys. All right, guys, so let me know what you think in the comments. How do you feel about AI? What do you think about the possibility of a tag being added for AI generated music, different streaming platforms transitioning over to adding a tag for AI generated music? Are you for it? Are you against it? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Everything is changing each and every day. We have to stay informed, and let's go ahead and keep that conversation going. Thanks for checking this out. My name is Desmond A, and I'll be back with more great videos. Peace. Wait, before you go, make sure you go to DesmondASounds.com, where you can get free FL Studio Patcher plugins, free loops, free guides, everything you need to level up your music production. Once again, go to DesmondASounds.com or click the link in the description. Go there now and totally transform your music production.